Wow, there is so much to go over here, and we're going to be breaking it all down today. But China's economy is melting down faster and faster. In fact, I had that in my stack of news, and then right before the show started, just about 2 minutes ago, I was getting a cup of coffee back in the break room, and I had CNBC on, and they were going, let's be honest, China's deteriorating fast with, riots, and the government's pumping in massive amounts of liquidity, and now they have this dispute with Japan and threatening war and massive liquidity in Europe and here, and then I had to walk out of the room to come down here. But you just see it everywhere. The global collapse is accelerating, and it is engineered. And I don't want to just sit here like a deer in the headlights. To be quite frank, I was talking to my wife this morning, and I said, we're like deer in the headlights. We get up here on the air, and we say everybody should get motivated, and everybody should take action, and everybody should expose the corrupt government we've got and say no to tyranny. But I feel like I'm not doing enough, or that I'm not finding that magic lever to throw that turns all this around. And then I just realized that historically we're entering a very decadent cycle right now. And we're going to go through this. The question is, how bad is it going to be? And the more people we wake up, the better it's going to be. The pain will not be as great and not as prolonged historically. But it is quite a realization to have been on the air for 17 years, really about 13 years, trying to stop this engineered global meltdown that we knew they were setting up then, and to now know that it's not going to be stopped. They're going to start their larger war in the Middle East. It's already begun. They're going to attack Iran. The question is when. They're going to establish pretty much martial law in the Western world, and they're going to raise the taxes and take everybody's private property unless you're an insider. And armies of bureaucrats and corporate bureaucrats are already engaged in their criminal activities all around us. And the general public is in a trance-like state, obsessed with what Lady Gaga is doing. And we are a rotten, corrupt, decadent system, from the elite at the top right down to the general public, myself included. A shadow of the type of men that founded Texas, a shadow of the type of people that founded this republic. I mean, I've studied the history. I don't romanticize it. I am a shadow of those men, and the general public is a shadow of who I am. That's pretty scary when you know that you're low and weak, and you're better than almost everybody. And the globalists are fully aware of all this, and they're rolling forward. And they know it's a collapse, so they're institutionalizing cycles and using the natural cycle to accelerate it, to control it, like a spacecraft going around a gas giant to pick up acceleration to slingshot to light speed. And I don't think they're going to execute it. In fact, historically, intellectually, I can look at this. Spiritually, I can look at this. Gut level, I can look at this and tell you, the globalists are going to destroy themselves and us if we don't stop them. So right now, I just hope to survive this collapse and this decadent frothing we're going to witness that's going to make anything in history look like a cakewalk, and hopefully have a remnant of human civilization continue on to the future. And I've just got to go ahead and just tell you, that's where I see things going, and I don't think there's any way to stop it at this point. Okay, there you go. Maybe I'm wrong. I've tried to be an optimist, but this country and this world is a rotten hog in the sun. Insider billionaire investors like George Soros and John Paulson have recently made massive moves into gold, purchasing what Bloomberg News described as gold hoards. Soros alone doubled his holdings in a single day. Russia's Vladimir Putin has doubled down on gold, increasing the country's holdings by over 100%. With $1.8 trillion under management, the bond king Bill Gross, the world's preeminent bond fund manager at PIMCO, has warned investors of the dangers of QE3 and inflation. And what's he betting on? You guessed it, gold. Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237. I don't know who you're batting for out there, but I'm certainly batting for Team Humanity and the future of our species. I want liberty and justice and a fair playing field and a good future for my children. And if my children are going to be free, your children need to be free. What comes around goes around. You reap what you sow. They got a lot of different names for it, but the truth is you don't cheat or screw anybody and not have it come back on you. And the social engineers we have running our society are as wicked and out of control and destructive as the day is long. And the only reason they've been successful, the globalists, at taking over the world to a great extent, is because good men and women have done little or nothing to resist them. And many people that are good who've gotten involved have been diverted by the globalists into their own programs, which on the surface say they have a good goal in mind, but always at its heart have dependency, centralization, and brutality at its heart. Okay, wow. I mean, every day it's an overload before I go on air looking at all the news. But let me just try to give you a smattering of what I'm here looking at. Switzerland prepares for mass civil unrest in Europe, fears over race wars, economic fallout prompt new military battalions. And this is the universities, the government, elected officials. They're all here quoted out of the Swiss newspapers. Paul Watson quotes them and links to where they're making these statements. And it's on Swiss television. It's in the Swiss papers. They're preparing for basically road warrior level collapse of Europe. And, of course, the elites in Europe are also preparing in other countries, and they're preparing here while starting wars all over the world and trying to engineer a financial implosion. We're going to be talking with best-selling author of When Technology Fails, Matt Stein, on this and more coming up in the second hour today. So that's just one of the stories I have. You remember 3 months ago, there were, no exaggeration, over 500 news articles coming out and saying there are no drones watching you. There is no weaponization of drones. It doesn't exist. Alex Jones, Matt Drudge, DrudgeReport.com, Infowars.com was Drudge carrying our stories. We just made it up, even though Kurt Nemo's article that became the national, huge news story that they countered was linked to all these local articles where they had weaponized drones and were weaponizing them and arresting people with them from Texas to Dakota. To North Dakota. So all of this is going on. Well, here is another article today with NBC News, and we're going to play part of this later just to analyze it. Sheriff wants drones to peek inside buildings. And this particular sheriff says in California that he already has drones, but now he wants them to look through your windows and to find marijuana plants, and to track what type of heat resonance you have with heat scanners, infrared, so they can SWAT team your house. People get SWAT teamed all the time, and they say, well, your power bill was too high. It must have been marijuana you were growing. Come on, government. You're run by a big pharma that pushes deadly psychotropics and other drugs on the population, prescription garbage, hillbilly heroin, the rest of it, OxyContin, kills by an order of conservatively 10 times what illegal drugs do every year, conservatively. You're pushing them on school kids with the New Freedom Initiative. The U.S. Army and Marine Corps grows the opium, 93% of the world's supply in Afghanistan, and loads it on C-130s to ship it in. And your excuse to SWAT team us and take our houses and cars and all the rest of it is marijuana. Mary Jane. And then when 14 states moved to say we're going to legalize it, Obama SWAT teams the legal dispensaries. I mean, I've just had enough of it. You're a bunch of narcotics traffickers who want to keep it illegal so you can run the stinking black market. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. The sheriff wants drones to peek inside buildings, technology previously used to hunt insurgents in Afghanistan. And it's already going in nationwide. And if this story goes big, they'll just come out and say, well, there's no drones. We never heard of those. Lockheed Martin to control Pentagon's global information grid. Privatization of the Pentagon. Homeland Security learns to love small spy drones. That's Wired Magazine, but it doesn't exist. I mean, the Pentagon, Wired Magazine reported last week that their number one enemy is constitutionalists and those that don't trust the government. Years after we broke that news. But it's okay. I mean, Pentagon's now running checkpoints all over the country illegally, but NSA spying on us illegally. But you know what? I was thinking this morning that this show sounds crazy because it's in reality. But it is crazy. It is crazy. I hear my rebroadcast sometimes on the local affiliates, 590, 90.1 other stations. Or sometimes I hear radio playing clips of me making fun of me. I'll just randomly tune in as somebody's playing clips making fun of me. Oh, look, he thinks the NSA spying on us. What a kook. And I'm like, I understand why, even though this is all admitted, the ignorant, they're experts on Dancing with the Stars and America's Got Talent and NFL or whatever the case is, it does sound crazy. I mean, if I'm up here saying that thousands of schools, thousands now, have cameras in the bathrooms, watching the kids go to the bathroom and take showers in public schools, that sounds crazy. If I announce all over the country, they now admit what 4 years ago they tried to cover up, that government-issued laptops are watching employees and students, whether you're a government worker or a public school student, a government training student, you are being watched. And now I've got articles today where they're like, yeah, we're watching you at home. What's the big deal? I mean, it's beyond 1984. And that's why it sounds so crazy, because the elites are crazy. And if you've studied history, you will know that, well, just look at what all the elites have done, different elites. They always think they're God and start murdering everybody in mass or demanding your firstborn be sacrificed or burning cities down for fun or, some neighbor challenges them so they take over and kill every man, woman, and child, or line 2,000 miles of Roman roads with people crucified upside down just because they want to, hail the birthday of the emperor. Or, you know what, let's have 10,000 Roman slaves killed in the arena this month to signify, the marriage of the emperor. Just a raw exercise of power. I've got several articles today about the TSA in mainstream news, one of them out of Seattle, local TV, Como TV, where people are in wheelchairs after serious surgeries, one woman terminal with cancer, and the TSA removes the bandages to make sure it's not a bomb. See, there's no medical rules anymore. There's no Hippocratic Oath. There's no Fourth Amendment. There's no nothing anymore. There is simply the system is going to dominate you, and you're like, but it's so horrible. It's so brutal. That's the point. The point is they're going to change your mores. They're going to change your attitude. They're going to train you, line up, and the Army's going to search you when we say, and you know what? I've got an article here out of Austin. They admit it happened. The family calls an ambulance and says, he's flailing around all over the place. Dad's flailing around. And so along with the fire truck and the ambulance comes the police, and the police get there, and they order a man having a full-born violent seizure, that's in my news stack here today, to freeze. And in their threat continuum, first they start billy clubbing you or tasering you, and then 10 of them will sit on you till you die. And, of course, the guy's biting his tongue, flopping around, bleeding all over the place. And they're just like, well, he isn't following our orders. Let's sit on him and taser him over and over again until he had a heart attack. And they admitted this in the report. I have this, what is it, NBC News. And I was reading some of the comments in one of the reports, and they're like, well, that's good. He didn't follow orders. Hey, your kid's mentally retarded? They're dead. Or your kid's autistic? They're dead. Because they don't follow the order. I read all the time about deaf people being attacked. And again, this isn't a cop bashing fest. The public's been dumbed down. The society has been dumbed down. So now they don't want to hire police who've got over 100 IQs. And they tell them, hey, here's your threat continuum. Here's your threat spectrum. And they got there, and the guys flopped around. They said, stop flopping around. That's in, and he didn't. And they're like, no, he's having a seizure. And they went, doesn't matter. And they all jumped on him, beat him up, started tasering him over and over again, over and over and over again, until EMTs got there. And the Austin Police Department's defending it. They go, well, you shouldn't have a seizure. We're going to kill you. I mean, you know. And you read this, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. It makes total sense. And there it is, cops taser man for having seizure, Austin, Texas. That's an RT article about it. And again, it's about the mindlessness. I mean, I've been at the airport and seen them when some 90-something-year-old woman looks like she's already dead. And they tell her, get up, go through the scanner. And the woman looks up, obviously can't hear a thing. They'll have like their granddaughter with them who looks like they're 50-something years old. And they're like, get her up, get up. They're like, oh, sorry, he hasn't walked in years. And you read about these stories all the time. They just say, we don't care, get her up. And they'll point to other passengers, get up, pick her up. And it's about the humiliation of the old. All the different TV shows, hate children, hate old people, hey, let's euthanize them. It's about dehumanizing us where we're lower than animals while they build up the rights of animals.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
I mean, here it is. We knew it was coming. It's in the New York Times. Kurt Nimmo wrote an article about it. It's up at Infowars.com. It is a big, big deal. We've known for 9 months our so-called government run by the foreign mega banks. Remember, we've been captured as well through financial fraud. Now they want to militarily put troops on the streets just to get everybody officially conquered. And the poor Syrians who've tried to work with the West, just like Gaddafi's tried to work with the West, are absolutely under 9 months of sustained al-Qaeda attack. And as you know now, starting, almost 9 days ago, Turkey began shelling the entire border region that they said so that they could help bring in more jihadis, mainly out of Saudi Arabia. And they have U.S. troops right there on the border on record. Kurt Nimmo links to all this, training them and arming them to go in. And the Russians that are there backing up the Syrians, they have been fighting to keep the infiltrators from getting in, where they can then have house-to-house battles in the different Syrian cities. They're trying to stop them at the border. And so NATO-made mortars, that's come out, started getting fired back into a few civilian areas so they could then blame it on Syria. And then the big tell is that Syria never said they were doing it, but our media said, Syria admits they're attacking Turkey. And then Syria's like, no, we're not. We don't want you to invade us. You're doing this. You're the ones attacking us. But it doesn't matter. Our media is now the same ones that, tell you the Federal Reserve is a government agency. They're now saying that they're going to have to bomb Syria, which, of course, they promised 8 months ago they'd never do, because Syria is attacking poor little Turkey with the biggest military in the Middle East. U.S. moves to impose buffer zone inside Syria near Jordan border. By the way, I want to get Cybelle Edmonds on. She, of course, worked at the FBI decoding NSA. She's got a lot of inside intel on this. Let's try to get Cybelle on tomorrow or Friday if we can. Or maybe Sunday. U.S. moves to impose buffer zone inside Syria. So they now have one on the Turkey-Syria border and now the Jordan border with the shelling. And it's on. They're now sending in publicly U.S. troops and Pentagon advisors that they admitted 9 months ago they already had there. But now it's just, they're going public with the peace action to protect Turkey. This would be like if Mexico publicly attacked Guatemala and had insurgents try to overthrow Guatemala on their southern border, and then said, we need the U.S. to attack Guatemala because Guatemala is attacking Mexico. And everybody, it is so dumb. There's a 9-month war where Mexico is attacking Guatemala, to use that analogy. It's just so a stronger state. Mexico's a much stronger state militarily than Guatemala. That's why I use the Turkey, Syria thing. And I mean, this is a Roman ruins everywhere, big, beautiful cities, an old world, not a third world country. We've had Sunni exiles on the show, like Syrian girl who was run out by the previous Assad. She doesn't even like Assad. We need to get Syrian girl back on, too. And she's been calling it like it is from the start accurately. And she's against what's happening because to watch Al-Qaeda brought in and blow up the old mosque and churches and synagogues and blow up the oldest grocery store in the world, World Heritage Site. I mean, they just blew the whole thing up. I mean, they're blowing that place up. And the most immoral war crimes you can imagine on record. They are, well, it's on the news, and it's patriotic. The Al-Qaeda goes and finds the dad, says, we're going to kill your family if you don't go truck bomb. The dad gets in and drives the truck bomb in. And if they don't, they chop the kids' heads off and throw them off roofs. And it's on the foreign news. I mean, this is what our government's doing. And Mitt Romney's like, Obama's not doing enough. Get in there and overthrow Assad. So when we get back, Turkey warns Syria it may use greater force. U.S. military is sent to Jordan to help with crisis in Syria, the crisis they created. Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about a year and a half ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of Youngevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals. But the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. And we are, again, transmitting worldwide today on XM channel 166 and over 120 AM and FM affiliates, as well as global shortwave WWCR, and, of course, audio streams and the free podcast at prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com, and streaming video at InfoWarsNews.com or prisonplanet.tv. So, again, I mean, I've talked about this a lot. I want to open the phones up right now to take just a few calls from active duty military personnel. This is public. They just count on the general public being totally ignorant. I know the troops, active duty I talk to, just shake their heads and they go, no, this proves everything you're talking about, how Al-Qaeda works for the West. We know Al-Qaeda was created by the West, but we know they used them to attack the Serbs in the 90s and then say, oh, look, the Serbs are fighting back. We've got to have NATO attack Serbia. And now they've used them against Libya. They're using them against Syria. And then they're saying, oh, my gosh, every day a mortar gets shot across the border and blows up some, village shack. I don't think anybody's even been killed. So we've got to invade the whole country now while Syria is under concerted attack. And house-to-house fighting going on in the major cities. I mean, it is so incredibly immoral what's going on. Turkey warns Syria it may use greater force. And the New York Times, the folks told us about yellow cake in Niger and aluminum tubes, and we're caught lying. With Syria's civil strife coursing through major cities and unsettling neighboring countries. And look, they report it like, oh, the civil strife. Isn't it so sad? When the West literally, on record, started the whole thing. The Turkish military sounded a somber warning on Wednesday that it may respond more forcibly after days of shelling from Syria. And the shelling is a few mortars, which the evidence shows are being shot by the al-Qaeda rebels that, well, I mean, it's a false flag. It's a staged event. News reports on Wednesday spoke of an intensified fighting close to the Turkish-Syrian border near the Syrian frontier settlement, with mortar and machine gun fire clearly audible from the Turkish side. As fighting near the 550-mile border has unfolded over the past week, several mortar bombs have landed on Turkish soil, prompting Turkish gunners to return fire. It has not been clear whether the Syrian mortar is deliberate or the result of an inaccurate fire and clashes between government forces and rebels seeking the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad. Well, I thought Syria 7-8 days ago took credit for it. Of course, they didn't. Again, ladies and gentlemen, on 8/8/8 in 2008, I got up and the news was announcing Russia has attacked Georgia. Even though I'd been on the air 14 years or whatever it was at the time, 13 years, and thought I was savvy, I went on my show that day and announced Russia had attacked Georgia. And then it started coming out, well, wait, actually, and it was even like on BBC. Well, actually, when Georgian forces attacked the Russian forces at Abkhazia and South Ossetia. But our media just kept going for a few weeks that no, Russia attacked. And then, I was an evil traitor for saying that, well, no, actually, it's admitted by NATO that South Ossetia and Abkhazia were attacked by Georgian forces. I mean, they went into the demilitarized zone, those disputed zones since the end of World War II that has Russian populations that were persecuted by the Georgians, vice versa, kind of the Kosovo type situation again, just in a different area, but similar. And they just went into the barracks and killed hundreds of Russian soldiers. So the Russians just poured in and pushed them back, rolled nukes in and said, okay, NATO, get out or we're going to take the whole country. NATO blinked and pulled back. But what does that tell the world? It came out that NATO ran that as some weird test of Russia to see what Russia would do, and Russia did not blink. The globalists are insane, ladies and gentlemen. They've got our Navy massing off the coast of China right now. China is teetering financially, getting ready to go under. I mean, this is crazy. And again, our country's run by the globalists that are playing all our countries off against each other. The Iranian government's bad. The Russian government's bad. Our government's bad. The Japanese government predominantly is bad. The Israeli government's bad. The Syrian government's bad. They're all corrupt. Corruption has become so accepted that that's the prerequisite to being in power, is lying and deceiving and bought off by globalist special interests that are bigger than all the governments. What? You can look this up at the top 100 corporations or of the top 100 biggest economies. Years ago, it passed the line of more than half were corporations. Walmart's bigger than most big governments, most big GDPs, most big countries' GDPs. That's just Walmart, ExxonMobil. But they're just corporations. They're not the banking cartels that are innumerably bigger through fraud, who've traded 1,000+ trillion in fake garbage that they got everybody to buy into. Now they're holding everyone hostage, and they need war as the political smokescreen. So I want to ask, we'll go right to your calls for just a few military callers. What is your take on this morally? To know that, even the Council on Foreign Relations and the Washington Post and the LA Times, they admit, okay, yeah, 25% to 50% of the fighters are al-Qaeda. Yeah, they're blowing up churches. Yeah, they're going to kick women out of college and make them wear burqas, just like they've done in Libya. And yeah, but you know what? We're bringing down Assad. We'll use al-Qaeda. We'll deal with them later. Yeah, a year after the killing of Gaddafi or less, they're already saying they've got to re-invade Libya because of al-Qaeda. They're saying they want to invade all these other African countries because of al-Qaeda, where al-Qaeda isn't even at in places like Rwanda and where else are they at? Down there where the Lord's Resistance group's at in Central Africa. And they're saying that group's in 3 or 4 different places. So all of this is happening. All of this is going on. All of this is unfolding. And we're sitting here watching our country historically. We are watching all of this historically happen. I mean, history is going on right now in front of all of us. History is taking place right now in front of us. And I've never seen something this openly immoral, this openly, completely and totally, absolutely, patently fraudulent. I have never seen anything this. I mean, they've done corrupt things in the past. We've had corrupt elites for a long time. But this is so over the top to have al-Qaeda in there engaging in mass war crimes, throwing people off roofs, chopping their heads off, blowing up churches, desecrating churches, dressing up in Orthodox priest robes, making jokes, al-Qaeda videos, you know, where they're on tape going, yes, America's helping us today, but I will kill you soon. We will hoist the al-Qaeda flag over the White House. We will kill you infidel Christians, and we'll blow Israel up. And we're sitting there watching this as our government says, hey, we've got to take all your rights and all of your liberties. We've got to do this because al-Qaeda is everywhere. They've got to take 92-year-old women who've just had cancer surgery, who are going home to die, and they've got to rip the bandages off of them. They've got to rip appendages out of people. They've got to pull catheters out of people's genitals. They've got to rip colostomy bags off as feces splatters everywhere. This is on the news. They're like, what is that? It's a colostomy bag. I'm ripping it off. This is what things have turned. And it's all just total acts of domination by crazy elites. And they know what they're doing, but they're still insane. They're crazy like a fox. But this is all insane because the elite is insane. Here's the toll-free number, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. And we will get you up and on the air today because I want to hear from you. I want to know where you think all this is going. I mean, you don't think Switzerland's publicly saying they're getting ready for Europe's collapse and massively increasing their military to keep refugees out of Switzerland because, they're just doing that for nothing. They've never done this except pre-World War II. That was the last time. Speaking of World War II, I had read this back when I had time to read history books as a pleasurable experience. I used to read several big history books every month, sometimes every week. And I remember reading conspiracy theory out of Hitler's mouth, that when he didn't like what somebody was saying, he would say they were a conspiracy theorist. Before that, they would say you're crazy or you're making things up or that it's wild rumors or that you were an old lady. Those were the terms they would use to discredit somebody as just a throwaway line. But the word conspiracy theory, the first time it's been confirmed to have been used, there's an article at Infowars.com about this today. Madman Hitler in 1945, the Holocaust is a conspiracy theory, and he broadcast from his bunker underneath the Reich Chancellery that it was a conspiracy theory to say that he had killed any Jews. And my only point is that when they use terms like conspiracy theory, it's just amazing. Okay, continuing here, folks, I see that your calls are coming in. I'll go to those here in a moment. We've got Ben Stein coming on the broadcast. Matt Stein. I've tried to get Ben Stein on. I think that's why I said that. Matt Stein, when technology fails, to give us his perspective on this and also this culture. Why is the mainstream media pushing 24/7 right now that there's going to be a societal collapse? See, that's a meme they're pushing, but they're always acting like it's going to be some outside event that happens, so it's kind of collectively in the subconscious. Because they know the general public. There was an article out yesterday about one of the stars of one of these shows where the right-wingers don't want to turn their guns in, so they're terrorists. What's it called? Revolution. He's on the show, and he says people start fights with him just hearing that he's playing a terrorist. So, I mean, that's how this works. That's why people are always going to liquor stores and shooting Sikhs, because they're wearing a turban on their head and have a beard. They don't know there's scores of religions that, have big beards and turbans on their heads over in the East, Near East, Far East, you name it. And they don't even apologize. When these guys go to prison, they say, oh, I know he was Al-Qaeda. You know, when they get the guy up on stand, I've seen the cases where I know he's one. So, I mean, you know, that's it. It's just, they're just there now pushing this whole thing, getting everybody ready for the collapse. So everyone just expects it and then blames, oh, peak oil or the Kuiper Belt object or, you know, whatever it is, when it's a organized Agenda 21 implosion of society. James, Jared, John, and others. James is in the Marine Corps. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree? I mean, it's admitted they're putting Al-Qaeda in Syria and gave Libya over to them and gave them 10,000 missiles. And we're simultaneously now being told they've got to attack Syria and Iran because they're Al-Qaeda. That was in the news yesterday. What's your take on this?
Hello, Alex.
Yes, sir.
No, this is James. Look here, I used to be in the Marine Corps, and look here, I worked in logistics and communications. So far as the deal, when they tell you about the mortars hitting, you know, our mortars, like the biggest ones we have, the 80-millimeter mortars. They only, statistically speaking, they only will get about 3 miles from the border from Syria to Turkey. You're looking at about 260-something miles from the border. So they need to get their logistics right when they tell people stuff like that. Guys like us out there that see what's going on, that's been there, that understand that all this is a big wash. And if they keep this up, we're going to basically have ourselves undermanned, ungunned, and everything else, and then we're going to be taking over. See, also, I think the people that have done this a long time ago. Do you know back in 1970, I went to Marine Corps in 1978, they were trying to get us to wear the blue helmets, and us guys back then refused to wear those helmets. And we said we would not do it. But that's the reason why they're going after the older guys like us, but we were dedicated to the Corps and to the United States.
Yeah, I've seen reports of 60-year-old Marines right now that are in combat, some even older. Just amazing how many of the older generation they've had to go join the military, rejoin.
Exactly, because simple reason that we was taught, I mean, from old school, and we was, like I said, we was dedicated. But these guys that got nowadays don't understand that they have basically exhausted all your supplies and everything else. So people need to wake up, and you're right. I mean, I've listened to your show for a long time. I think when you first started up, I listened to you. So us guys sitting in the background, we're basically monitoring everything that's happening. And so everything is, most Marines I know that's in the units I've been in, they're just hunkering down and just waiting to see what's actually going on. Because right now they can't be exposed, and the people that is in charge of the show, they are tyrannical, and they have basically lost their moral scope.
Exactly, because America's never been perfect, but I've never publicly using Al-Qaeda to go invade countries that aren't attacking anybody, and then saying on the news, we've got to attack Syria because they're Al-Qaeda, when it's admitted it's Al-Qaeda attacking Syria. I mean, how dumb do they think the general public is? Well, pretty darn dumb, but like you just said, military, like family I've got that's been in Turkey, been in Jordan, been in Israel, they all know the players. For the military, it's blowing them away to be publicly helping Al-Qaeda right now.
Exactly. Well, I mean, what has to happen is the people got to realize that between Al-Qaeda and CIA, we know that Brzezinski started it. Matter of fact, we over there in Pakistan and running around doing the Soviets. Like I say, you know, everything Pachinik has said, everything that Sabel has said, and people within the agency, the NSA, the CIA, all the good people that know what's going on, they like to say, they basically just see how far this stuff is going to go. But right now, they don't want to be compromised for the simple reason that they can be taken out. So that's why we're going to see what happens and what comes to a head, and then I think things will change pretty soon.
I hear you. God bless you. You know, I agree with that, and that's a point I've been meaning to make. We're going to go to break and come back with more of your calls. I've been meaning to make that for weeks here, is that, hey, there's not just bad guys in this world. There's a lot of good people, and they need to stay right where they're at, because that's, people ask, why am I alive? Well, the grace of God, number one. But number two, there are a lot of good people in government and out of government and in media. There are all sorts of people in media that have quietly helped us over the years get the word out, even though sometimes I'm not the best spokesman. I'll say it myself up front. I'm just doing the best job I can. That's all I can do. But there have been so many people that have given InfoWars a shot because they know this information overall is very accurate. People like George Norrie of Coast to Coast AM helped put us on the map to an even greater level. People like Matt Drudge of DrudgeReport.com because they're good guys who realize that there's no future if we don't turn this around. I mean, folks, this is pure evil we're dealing with. Our country has been hijacked by foreign banks who brag they've hijacked us, and now they've got America on a kamikaze mission that is meant to destroy our name, bankrupt us. I agree with the Marine. This is meant to set America up.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
Again, I've talked to some military people that go, well, that's just war. Yeah, we'll use Al-Qaeda to kill the Shiites, and then we'll kill the Shiites after that. You know, let's just get them killing each other. Hey, they're using the threat of Al-Qaeda and all this to take our liberties, while in the real training manuals, it says it's for the American people. It was never about Al-Qaeda. Do you get it? Al-Qaeda works for Saudi Arabian intelligence, who works for British intelligence, who works for the Rothschilds on record. Look at who founded our CIA out of the OSS, British intelligence. I'm not blaming the British people, but the imperial model from the Empire Wars of the last 500 years was perfected by British intelligence. So their model is the modern model used today. This is a proxy war, divide and conquer, balkanization program that you're seeing. And it's evil. It's pure evil. And they're going to stage terror attacks, there's no doubt, and blame it on domestic groups and say that we work with Al-Qaeda. That's already in the Army training manuals. And I'm not going along with this, okay? This is how they plan on conquering our country. And it's just amazing, amazing to see it. Let's talk to Jared in Oklahoma, who's Marine Corps. Then we'll talk to John, who's Army. Jared in Oklahoma, your take on all this.
Hello, Mr. Jones. Good afternoon.
How you doing?
I think it's crazy. You know, I was recently just kicked out of the Marine Corps because I didn't agree with their ideology of going to Afghanistan and kill everybody you see. You know, I stand up for the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. I've been listening to your show for about 3 years. And if you don't agree with these people in the military's ideology of kill first, ask questions later, you're branded as a lunatic, a conspiracy theorist, mental mushroom head. And it's just crazy.
Well, you know why they say kill first, ask questions later. A lot of times it's whoever fires first will end up winning the fight. The problem is then you lose the moral authority long term. See, you kill first if you're in a war and there's the enemy. But when you employ those type of operations against the general public, you lose the hearts and minds. But again, the real larger strategy is to destroy our name worldwide. See, I learned about this over a decade ago when I noticed globalist publications like News Corp would badmouth America overseas in newspapers, but then not do it here domestically. So, see, they play both sides. These are globalists above the countries. What's your take, though, on the West injecting upwards of 50,000 Al-Qaeda now into Syria, but saying we have to attack Syria because they're with Al-Qaeda?
It's just brainwashing people because the average American doesn't really understand what's going on or even takes the time out of the day to investigate certain things. It's just
absolutely. I hear you, and I appreciate your call. Let's go to John in Tennessee, who's Army. John, what's your take on this?
How you doing, Alex? I'm a first-time caller. Just been listening to you for the last couple of months here. I feel like I have a lot to catch up to feel like I'm on the up and up, like that Marine caller that we spoke to a little while back. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Sure, it's okay. What do you think of them putting Al-Qaeda into Syria? I mean, that's admitted. I mean, is that a good thing?
I think it's despicable. At the end of the day, you've got the same guys who are destroying Syria under our own government's intent, and you know, these, if you look around and see reports from actual Syrian civilians, you see that they say that these guys that are these rebels, they're like 95% of them are foreign, and it's not.
No, sure. Stay there. Back in 1 minute. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. You've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. But now the so-called United States, that means the banker-run U.S. military, bankster-run, is doing what we knew they would do, carving out controlled military zones to inject jihadis, Al-Qaeda and others on the Turkey-Syria border and the Jordan-Syria border, where they have U.S. bases set up on both sides training them, along with their NATO forces, and they've got CIA, MI6, and others inside the country. Russian general's been confirmed to be killed. It's a proxy war. The Russians backing the Syrians and the United States and NATO backing the Saudi Arabian Al-Qaeda people. And it's unbelievably immoral. They started the war. They call it a humanitarian action. It is wild. And now they're moving towards a strike on Iran. That's in the news. We've got a caller who's in the Army, John in Tennessee. John, overall, when you talk to your friends in the military, are they even concerned about what's going on in the Middle East, or are they conscious of the fact that they're gearing up towards what Secretary of Defense Panetta called a larger regional war, where the United States and NATO are allied with the Sunni Wahhabist Al-Qaeda in a battle against Shiites? Does that sound like a fun thing to be in the middle of a Arab civil war?
No, definitely not. I mean, the Sunni Shiite thing has been going on for quite some time, and there's no doubt in my mind that the whole MO with that is to just create disruption in that general area. Just wanted to get you up on me. I was medically retired from the military back in 2010. I'm not active duty right now.
Sure, I just wanted my take period of active duty or people that just got out. So if you're talking to friends though, what's their take on all this?
Well, if I'm talking to veterans who are already out like me, some of them are opening up their eyes to it, because I don't know. I mean, when you get out, like it's been for me, you sit around, you think a lot, think about everything that happened, and I couldn't help but, want to look more into everything. I actually had a point I wanted to bring up about the Bin Laden raid, because I saw an article on your website about it early this morning. I ended up doing 25 cumulative months in Iraq as an infantryman, and I conducted tons of raids. And when you put the big picture together, thinking about that whole Bin Laden raid, something that just makes no sense whatsoever, and that a lot of people really haven't been bringing up, is that if Bin Laden, according to the way their story was living and breathing inside that compound before they conducted that raid, for SEAL Team 6 to be going in and raiding that compound and know that he's alive in there and not take him alive makes no sense. And here's why. From an intelligence standpoint, if the Obama administration were able to get their hands on a live captured Bin Laden, the benefit to their administration is unquantifiable. They could put him. They could
parade him around, but he worked for the globalists. He worked for Brzezinski, so you can't do that. Plus, the helicopter blew up. Then they blew up the rest of the SEAL Team 6 a month later. and it was some type of dummy guy, some kind of look-alike. So they threw the body in the sea. I mean, it's like little kids believe that Santa Claus comes down the chimney. I was 3 years old, and they were telling me that on Christmas Eve, and I said, he's too fat. And because I'm a bad person. I mean, I should believe in Santa Claus, but I don't. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously the whole story's a joke. The Situation Room photos are fake. The whole thing's fake. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?